I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York. I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast.
So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're over us? Yeah.
This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, it's a good one. We have Tim Delaughter. For those who don't know, Tim is the singer, writer, and founding member of the Polyphonic Spree and singer and co-founder of Tripping Daisy. We cover a lot of ground on this one, starting with some of Delaughter's earliest musically inspired moments. We hear some history and highlights about Tripping Daisy and the birth of the Polyphonic Spree, all the way up to an in-depth talk about the latest release from the Spree, Salvage Enterprise. Tim also clarifies some bad info on Wikipedia and talks about his listening parties, including a small run at planetariums coming up this spring. Please enjoy this chat with the incredible Tim Delaughter. We are back, and we have someone I would say is more than Dallas famous. That's Tim Delaughter. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. This is kind of like really cool timing because you have a new album coming out. That's this week, right?
Yeah, the 17th. I'm excited. Day before my birthday.
Oh, it's a day. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. It's Dallas famous, so we start with the whole kind of quick bio. So Duncanville kid, is that right?
Yeah, well, actually, born and raised in Dallas. I went to high school in Duncanville.
Okay.
And but I was went to elementary school in Lakewood. Lived in Lakewood through elementary, junior high, and then moved to Duncanville.
Okay.
And did a little 8th grade in Duncanville, and then all 4 years of high school.
Okay. Was that like a letdown going there from here?
You know what was cool about it is we lived out in the country in Duncanville. It sounds like it's already in the country when you say Duncanville. I always say Pumpkinville, but where we lived on like, a few acres of land, and there was cows and stuff like, there was like 5 houses on the whole street, and it was each house had like, plots of land, 5 acres, and they'd have like cows or horses or something. So we were kind of out in the country. So it was kind of a culture shock, kind of cool, because I ride motorcycles and all that kind of jazz. It was awesome. Bit different from being, here in Dallas.
Yeah, I would guess. So you were the grandson of a preacher, is that right?
Yeah, my grandfather on my dad's side was a preacher, a Church of Christ preacher, and so spent some time in Church of Christ in Arcadia Park in Oak Cliff.
Did that have any influence? Was that a musical church in any way?
You know what? A lot of singing, a lot of hymns. My grandmother was a singer. I would say it was kind of, Church of Christ back then, and this small church was, it would get kind of going. These guys are, hell, brimstone, and just, Lord, scary stuff. But then, they'd sing quite a bit, sing some hymns. My dad's sister, Nita, she had a band, and I lived with my grandparents for a while, and she had a band, all-girl band, and I think that was an influence on me. They'd set me down in the middle of the room as a toddler while they would like practice and stuff. And I'm just kind of rolling around, being around this music all the time. And but yeah, I think that was an influence mixed with, the radio of the 70s, the Baroque pop at the time, and that was a huge influence.
I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, it makes sense that there's a lot of the choir involved because there's a little bit of,
totally
crossover.
My mom kind of searched for religion on and off her whole time, and at one point we'd go to Beverly Hills Baptist Church, which was moved to the Bronco Bowl at the time. The old Bronco Bowl off of Fort Worth Avenue became Beverly Hills Baptist Church, and this was in the 70s, and inside their big auditorium, and they had like these big like bands and would kind of like seduce people to come down to get saved and by this music. And I think that had some inspiration there, you know. It was a wild time, a lot of people talking in tongues and a bit wild, but yeah, musically it was all about the music.
I guess so. You're around musicians as a small child, so I guess it wasn't that weird. At what point were you like, maybe I'm going to try this music thing for myself?
Well, I remember that specifically. I was going to school in Lakewood Elementary, and this was in the 3rd grade. And the music teacher there, Mrs. Simon, very like pinched face, big horn glasses, round with a tight jet black hair in a bun, and wore like a skirt pantsuit and just. No fun, all business.
Right.
But one day she walks in there and she comes in with this record album and she sets it on the chalkboard and she said, "Put your things away. We're just going to listen to this record." And we had never done anything like this before, so that kind of caught me off guard. And she sets this record on the chalkboard, and it's the profile of these 3 guys, their faces, and the name of the band was Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and it was the Trilogy record. And she breaks out the record player and plays this record, and my mind was blown. And it's like I remember after that was done, I just couldn't shake it. It's like I'd heard music I never heard before. The way it was introduced to me caught me off guard because it came from her and so unassuming. She's never done anything like that. It was never fun in there. And for her to do that was so out of character, but it made such a profound effect on me that I left that class that day thinking nothing but that. Like, I wanted to do that. I want to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, who I'm still friends with today, we talked about it, like having a band. He goes, "Well, my dad's got this guitar, and, you know, I'll play this guitar, and, you know, and you can do what you do." And I go, "I'll play drums." And but I didn't have any drums, so I walked to the Baskin Robbins that was at Mockingbird and Abrams. It's where we lived at the time. And I got the ice cream buckets and made my own drums, painted them, bolted them together, and made a little kit. And we practiced and kind of wrote a song together, sing along with my tambourine, and then before I knew it, we played in front of the class. She let us come and play the song in front of the class, and it's like I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so it's, you know, it's those things if you're lucky to get those moments as a kid where you can kind of have some sort of exposure like that kind of makes you think about the world differently or opens your mind to even like see something as a remote possibility of something that you may want to do. It happened for me. And so I'm always kind of cognizant of that when I see kids around. It's like, you know, I went back to the school and did we bought the Polyphonic Spree to Lakewood, and we played a show.
Oh, wow.
And just to try to, and I told that same story to the kids there. And it's like, I had this happen to me when I was your age at school, and some of this may appeal to you guys, and some of it might not, but somebody on stage playing a particular instrument may have an effect on you, and just, you know, always be open for things like that. You never know what it's gonna do, and I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do when I was your age, sitting in that same chair, watching some kind of thing in school. I'm doing it. So
that's cool. I can only imagine a young person getting exposed to the spree, like in school first. Like that would be a lot for anybody. For me, it was a lot when I first shot you guys. It was just, I mean, I was thinking about this on my way over here. There's only 2, you guys and I just did Flaming Lips. It's the only time I felt like that. And for them, your show was at Longhorn, so it wasn't as many like crazy stuff. So like it was just the music and the vibe for me. I'm thinking of a kid watching that is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was so thankful that the school let us do it. It wasn't a full-blown spree. It was kind of a stripped down. It wasn't like the full amplified, although we were amplified, but it wasn't full bore spree.
Sure.
But it was enough for those little guys.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool. So you're playing drums on these Baskin Robbins cans. Now, Wikipedia, you told me when you walked in, it's don't trust it. So I'm going to say it, and then you can tell me that's
Yeah.
all right. But it said that the way they phrased it was that you just realized that drums weren't your instrument.
So, it says that I wasn't good or that I sucked or
I
some
was
shit.
being nice.
But, it's like, I know these people like, who is Wikipedia? Because I'm like, so much of that is wrong.
Yeah.
But I know where it came from. So I was playing drums for, I was in a first real band. This was in junior high, and it was like a heavy metal band. And I was playing drums, and I got my first kit, which was a blue sparkled Ludwig 63 kit, which today would be really great to have.
Oh, yeah.
But back then, when you're playing 80s metal, it's not cool at all. You need either a black, white, or chrome Ludwig,
Right.
kit, and I just didn't have that. And so one day I'm coming to practice, and I get there and I hear someone playing the drums, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And they're playing in the garage, and I'm outside the garage, and it's kind of freaking me out. They're just playing with this other drummer, and there was a sliver of that I could see through the glass of the garage door that wasn't painted, and I look in there, and there's this huge double bass Ludwig, chrome Ludwig drum set in there with this dude just killing it. I mean, killing it,
Right.
playing great. And I'm going, oh my God. And I see the other guys in the band playing, and it just kind of crushed me. And I turned my back to the door, and I slid down and sat down. And I was like, I think I started crying. I was just like, I can't believe they did this. And my friend Kendall comes out, and he sees me sitting there. He's like, dude, I'm sorry, it's just, he's really good, and he's got a great kit, and I'm like,
Yeah.
he goes, but you know what, man? He goes, you can sing. Why don't you try to be a singer? Because it was always just kind of instrumental, and one of the guys would try to sing, but we could never get there. And I thought, all right, I'll try to sing. I've never thought about that. And so I did it, and it was like a duck to water. It's like it just worked for me. And it's like, that's what I was supposed to be doing. I still play drums. I love playing drums. And I'm not bad either,
Right.
despite that Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's some
page.
person that who knows.
But
yeah.
no, but I got demoted as a drummer because obviously I wasn't as good as Joey, and I certainly didn't have the metal kit at the times.
Right. They should put that in Wikipedia. I didn't have the right kind of kit, and that was why.
Yeah.
That was it.
Well, that, and in all fairness, Joey was really good. It was a double bass kit, and you ought to play it. And
Yeah.
I had a blue sparkle kit that said the blue things on it, written in this old school font because it belonged to some band called the Blue Things.
Right.
I'm like, it doesn't really work playing, Judas Priest and Black Sabbath. And,
Right.
But anyway, it worked out. I found out that I was a singer, and that's kind of where it all started.
Cool. I'm surprised. Well, like when I was researching, I was surprised, but I put on a Tripping Daisy song, and my girlfriend was in the room, and she was like, that sounds like Ozzy Osbourne. And I was like, yeah, that's an accident. There's no way. And then I started, like, you were into metal at one point.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me.
And I still love metal. I love rock. And I know it doesn't sound like it because of the Polyphonic Spree, but I have that side too, which I aired out with Tripping Daisy. But yeah, man, Ozzy was a huge influence. Black Sabbath. I loved Black Sabbath. I was also a huge John Anderson. I loved the Yes. I had digested the whole Yes catalog in the 8th grade.
Wow.
Was massively into that because one of the guys that lived behind me was older than me, and he had a Moog, and he was always trying to play licks from Yes and playing it, and he turned me on to it, and I just loved it. So I kind of identify with John Anderson, and then when I started playing rock and getting more into that, it was like Ozzy. I just loved how Ozzy's voice, he kind of rides it's like a current, and it kind of rides a rail. It's like when I would sing into a fan, when anybody kind of would sing into a fan, you get that reverberation back to you, and it's like, yeah, and it kind of slaps back, and it's like this sound like, yeah, that you would get. And Ozzy would glide his melody and kind of swing it around, and I loved how that happened, and it reminded me of the fan, and from that point on I started singing with effects, and I've always sang with them, but It was Ozzy because it's like his voice is more like a current to me, and I like that element of a voice being a current that could like glide and ride and round out words and I don't know.
I can hear that in your stuff. Very
and so
clearly, yeah.
you hear that in certain choruses, or when I'm trying to like really glide it out, it comes out in that. But it's from Ozzy.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. I had to go back because I was like, "There's no way," and I was like, "You were right."
Yeah,
I was definitely there. So how long between high school and Tripping Daisy?
So we had a band, and I had two bands. One band was Saint in high school, and we had a band called Regency, which was more kind of pop. We were doing everything from Rush to the Romantics, and just kind of cover music. No originals.
Right.
It was like a lot of bands back then were playing covers and not really making much original music. And if they were gigging and playing places, but it was tough for kids like us. We were all just dialed in trying to play Def Leppard and Black Sabbath, Ozzy, and I'd say I graduated from high school and had this big idea of moving to California and becoming an actor, and I was still messing around with music, but I wasn't. When I'd hook up with my friends, we would kind of jam and stuff, but it was never anything serious. And then ended up moving to California. I was 18, me and a friend, and Scott, who did the visuals for Tripping Daisy back at the time. He and I moved out there, and we ended up like basically struggling. Ended up selling clothes and our own clothes to get food to eat, and just do what you got to do.
Oh yeah.
And buying quarter burgers and a bag of weed and just trying to like make it through the day. And so nothing really ever happened out there, except it was a lot of experiences and stuff like that, but no music. And then came back to Dallas and worked at I opened the Hard Rock when the Hard Rock Cafe opened up here in '87. I was a part of the opening team. I got hired as a barback and started thinking about music again. And I'd still jam with my friends, but nothing serious. And when I got fired from there one day, I worked there for 3.5 years, and I got fired for telling off a customer. And I said, well, I had a friend that moved to Crested Butte, Colorado, and she goes, I can get you a job up here if y'all want to come move up here. So me and a buddy moved to Crested Butte, Colorado, and it was like, I had to ski to work every day, which was a real drag.
Literally?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
My commute was getting on a chairlift and ski lift and take it to the top, and I'd ski down to where I was working, which was a warming hut, a Twister warming hut on Crested Butte Mountain. And so I managed that place, and it was a time of my life. And my buddy played guitar, and one night he heard there was an open mic there in town, and he goes, dude, let's just go up there and jam and see what we come up with. Because I would always improvise lyrics and melody on the spot. That's how I write songs. And I figured that out at a young age, that's how I kind of do it. And so we had nothing prepared. And he gets up there, and I remember we're just sitting on this stage in a black box theater. It's full. And I said, dude, just play something. We'll just see what happens. So he starts playing, and I close my eyes, and I just kind of start singing and putting it out there and visualizing what I'm talking about and singing. And it comes out, and we finish, and there's like silence. And the place just erupted, like went nuts. And I had just like been lost. I was totally into what I was thinking about and doing, and I was just opened my eyes, and it was just like I'd taken a little trip on my own. And those people flipped out. They were standing up. It was literally like, it was just a wave of applause and this energy that like hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, holy shit, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Wow. Get your ass back and get going. And that's when I kind of pulled it together. I floated around for a while from high school, and I was 24 years old at that point. and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Moved back to Dallas and started looking for people to start a band, which was Tripping Daisy.
Wow.
But it happened just like that.
It makes sense though, because I mean, it is your calling. It's like you're one of those people. It's clear, and just we all figure that out for ourselves, and it's just cool that you figured out that early.
Yeah, it was like undenying to me. I'm kind of searching. I'm just kind of floating, experiencing life and living. Like, I think every kid should be able to like have that freedom to be able to find themselves and find out where it's gonna take you. You can. I'm all about like float around, have experiences, find where you are, find who you are, find what you're gravitating to, and then just go for it if it hits you. And it hit me that night. It hit me. It was like I just knew it, and came back and I told Julie, and she and I started putting the word out, started looking. I was going to jam with whoever I could in this town in Deep Ellum. I didn't know anybody. I knew a few people. Kenny Withrow, I knew him from the New Bohemians because we went to the same school in Lakewood, along with Edie Brickell. We all went there at Lakewood Elementary,
Sure.
And in junior high and high school. But he was always finding jams. I would jump in with him, and then you'd meet some other people that were jamming. There was a real heavy music community at that time. This was 89, 90 that it was going on. And Deep Ellum was, at that time it was warehouses underground, and you were starting to have some people that take it serious down here, but it was still kind of on the dangerous side. There was, field parking lots, nothing concrete around here. It was like warehouses with, not very, just run on a shoestring and not professional, not commercialized at all.
Wow.
And it started to happen pretty quick, but that's kind of when I was down here, and I would just play with people. And Julie introduced me to Wes Berggren, who she was going to school with at Katie Studios, and he knew Mark Pirro from school at North Texas. And I found Jeff Balk, who was the drummer, and we just started playing, and we just immediately hit it off. Like, Wes could improvise like myself, and Mark could too. But Wes and I had this, it was like one of those things, like I'd play with a lot of different people, but something about with him, it's like he could tell where I was going to go. I could tell where he was going to go. It's like this unspoken language that we had, and we could do it effortlessly. We could write songs all the time. It was no big deal. It became so easy that Tripping Daisy did that in front of, in live settings all the time. We'd write songs that people didn't even realize. They thought they were new songs. Well, they were, but they were actually written right then in front of people.
Wow.
We could do it. Brian was really good at playing through improvising and being on your toes and listening and playing. It was just a great group of guys. The chemistry was so awesome. And it just kind of worked.
Yeah. Well, is there like a couple of moments, like the highlights of those days for you, like a show or a moment with somebody?
Man, there's so many. Tripping Daisy was so weird because it happened really fast when this band came out. It's like, my God, we played an open mic at Dada, our first open mic, and we did visuals at that time.
From the first show?
Very first show.
Okay.
First open mic we did it.
Okay.
Which no one would do that, but
yeah.
We had a massive screen in there that took up the whole back half, and Scott Berman at the time. At that time, I was just as interested in the visuals as I was the music. So, we spent time cutting film, making slides, doing all kinds of stuff. And he would color stuff, bleach film. We had 16 millimeter projectors and an overhead. And once we did that, and we like, this is our show. And it kind of became the thing. And then we started like amping up the visual aspect of it as well. But we played that first open mic, and people loved it. And right after we were done, we were offered a Thursday night at Trees.
Oh,
and
wow.
then
Yeah.
it just started happening. It happened really fast. way faster than some of the bands that were already been working their ass off and trying to get going. So it was kind of tough for us to come in because we were like, who are these guys coming out? And we sucked. I didn't think we were that good, but we put on a really good show. The songs were good, but I just didn't think, and you know, they would probably agree with me, but I was a little bit self-conscious that, man, we're just not. I thought we were about a year behind of where we should have been musically, as far as musicianship and all that. But shit, we only had like 6 songs, and it was like we were trying to play catch up because we had so many people come to the show because it was a good show, and people liked the music, but it just we weren't. It was I always felt we were trying to play catch up the whole time. It was a weird dynamic for Tripping Daisy amongst the other musicians that were playing, other bands were playing here.
I mean, did you feel that way the entire time, or did you feel like you
No, eventually it got eventually, no, at the beginning it was rough.
Gotcha.
And then eventually, you know, we had to grow up pretty quick as far as playing that because we were playing Friday, Saturday night shows. We were being asked to play everywhere. The crowds were huge. We were having to write songs constantly to keep up to make it more to last longer. We were a headlining band, but we weren't ready for it yet. But the crowds were kind of demanding it. So there was a little bit of insecurity on my part back then that, you know, I didn't understand it, but as I got older and looked back, I completely get it. It's like, who are these guys? We're out here busting our ass, and these guys come out of nowhere and are just demanding this huge crowd. And eventually we got there, and we were a great band, and it was a great show, and it was the energy back and forth with the audience was undeniable. It was a great time.
Right, and then it kind of ended really abruptly, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, we Tripping Daisy worked really hard. We stayed on the road quite a bit. We'd go out for 3-4 months at a time in a van, in a trailer, and just kept pounding. And we worked really, really hard. We never stopped. We kept going all that. We'd come home for a couple of weeks, then leave again for 3 or 4 months. And it was just kind of what we did. And I think we kind of burned ourselves out there towards the end after Jesus Hits Like the Atom Bomb. We were kind of like fried. We did a tour with Def Leppard, which was great. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that's
we like 3 months with them.
But it's like one of your childhood bands.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, and oh my God. So I'm gonna digress, but we did I kept asking, can we do? We want to do Wasted from On Through the Night album with you guys, and that was their first record. And it's kind of a sore subject because they had their guitar player die of an overdose and alcohol and all that kind of stuff, and it's kind of a touchy thing for them. But Joe Elliott, he goes, I've talked to the guys in the band, and they're all right with doing it. They'd never done it before, so we played it. We were in Vancouver, I believe, and I came out there and sang it with them. It was awesome.
Wow.
But my point is that we had toured so much, and we were fried. This is off the end of Firecracker. And it's like we were done. We were so fried. And then that tour came up, and it was 3 more months of, and I think that did a huge number on us. It's like killing the band. We were fried. And we were like, we're done touring for a while after that. And we went off and made our best record we ever made, which was Jesus Hits Like the Atom Bomb. And then came back out and toured, but we never did hit the road as hard as we did that time. And then we wrote the self-titled, and during the making of that is when Wes passed away. And I was like, that was devastating for everybody, for all of us. He was like a brother, friend. It was devastating. I still can't believe he's gone. This dude was, and people always say that about people like that. He was 27 years old, and the way that he bounced around on the world and his light, the way he was, it was light. And it just, the world became a lot darker when he left. It was gut-wrenching for me. Anyway, I was like, I can't do this without him. And I just the guys kind of wanted to keep going. I was like, I can't do this, man. It's not the same.
I mean, I get
And
that. I get
took,
that.
took I said, I'm done. And, you know, I just had my second son, my second child, I should say, Oscar. We had Stella, and then Oscar came along right as Wes passed. Oscar was born. So it's weird that kind of, you know, death and then the birth of our second child. And it was kind of, the world just seemed really strange. But I started writing again after Oscar, and I wasn't doing anything musically anymore. I went from this band that was playing all the time and doing stuff to not really doing anything. And I was working at Neiman's as a set builder and phoning, you know, sets for catalogs and just PA work, whatever I could do to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. And then Chris and Julie's like, you got to get out and play. You got to get a band. You got to do something. You can't just keep doing this. And had those songs like, you know, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do. And that's going to be this band that's like symphonic and rock. And that was it, the Polyphonic Spree. It was something I thought about in Tripping Daisy when we would go and record. It's like wishful thinking for different instruments. Like, this would be cool to have a flute here or a harp playing at this part or a horn section here. Or, you know, instead of one person singing, how about 10 people singing? And it's like one day I'll have a group like that, but I'll be much older. I thought I'd be like in my 50s, and this is the way I looked at it back then. Sure. Like, I'll have a band like that, and it'll be this sound, and that's what I'm going to do. But unfortunately, it happened a lot sooner. But I thought, if I'm going to play music again, I'm going to do something that I want to do, and so that's where it came from.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad that you went that direction, because I don't feel like there's anybody quite like out there what you're doing. It's very unique. I was curious about the writing process with Poly. Like, are you bringing songs and then people are doing their parts? Is there probably doing arrangements? How's that go?
So I'll bring in it's all born out of improvisation. All the songwriting I've ever done has been out of that. And this in particular, but I'll bring in a basic song on guitar or piano and show it to the guys, and we'll just play. But this record, Salvage Enterprise in particular, is the most, I'd say, most undemocratic record I've made with the Spree. I usually was pretty open and always like the kitchen sink. Everybody's got to get their chance to be on the record.
Right.
Real democratic, and it was not really that I had to be. It's like I wanted everybody to like be a part of it, and it also kind of helped the sound. But sometimes I look back and I'm like, they're great records. I can't bag on them at all. But it's like sometimes, like, you know, could have pulled back half of that stuff and made it a little bit more dynamic, you know. But it was just the nature of growing into the Polyphonic Spree, becoming a band director, what is the Polyphonic Spree? How are you going to orchestrate that from beginning to end? Like, that sound that you're kind of wanting, how's it going to evolve through time? And so that's what it's done. And in particular, this record, there was a specific agenda on trying to have it sound a specific way, unlike anything we'd done before. And so with this one, it was a lot more difficult because you had people coming with different interpretations of how they wanted to approach the song, and it wasn't in line with where I was wanting to go.
Gotcha, yeah.
And so it's like, no, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be like this, or we're not going to do it. It's got to be like this. It was pretty militant, but that's what it had to be in order to get there. For me, this record was really personal, and I wanted it to tone to get its just by staying true to where the vision was.
Right. Okay, interesting. And I've read too that like one goal with this record is that you want people to listen to it from beginning to end.
Yeah, and I've never been that. I'm doing it with the audience now too. It's like, you have to listen to this from start to finish, you know? And that's what brought up the freaking listening experience, is like, I'm going to hold these people captive, so they have to hear it as a whole. But you know what? I'll be doing them a favor, because they're going to get a break from their phone. They're going to be outdoors looking at the stars. And I think it's going to work out for them and for me. And so that's where, you know, coming up with the listening experiences, I'm just going to do these pop-up listening experiences. And I mean, everyone's got a jukebox in their pocket. They can hear whatever they want at any time they want. And everyone's so used to surfing one song at a time. Playlists are now dominating people's worlds, not albums, but some person's idea of what song they want you to hear, which is great. But it's like the experience of experiencing an album, like what we used to do when albums came out, like I did when Pink Floyd, when The Wall came out, you know, and I wanted that people to have that experience with this record. And so that was the reasoning behind the listening experiences. So I just got a Sprinter van, and I rented a sound system with 12 speakers and 12 tripods, and had 2 generators, and I just sat out on the road by myself with this stuff. And I had moving blankets in there so people could lay down on moving blankets. And basically it's like listening through headphones, but you're outside without headphones. It sounds just like that.
Wow.
It's like all the speakers are 360 degrees, and they're all aimed at your ears, and you're laying down or sitting up, however you want to do it. And it's just like you're outside listening to music that's loud and sounds great, and it's 360 degrees, and everywhere you turn it sounds the same, but you're outside and you're not wearing headphones. It was awesome.
Wow. Are you going to do more of those?
Oh yeah, I'm doing more, and I might be doing one this Friday. They're trying to find a spot right now for the release of the record.
Right.
But yeah, man. So the first one I did was in Joshua Tree. A friend of mine was doing this kind of like art music festival, 3 days in Joshua Tree. It's kind of very, very miniature Burning Man like, with all these artists and doing sculpture and light sculpture and bands, art rock bands, and just psychedelic and just crazy. And they asked me to come out there and do a listening experience. So I did 2 nights of it out there, and then I was talking to some people. They said, you need to go to Ojai in California and do this. I'm like, all right. So I just looked at my phone. I was like, okay, Ojai, I guess I'm going there. So that's how I did it. There was no rhyme or reason. I just said, I've got an open time. I've got this stuff. I've got everything I need. I'm just going to go and do them. And then I've tweeted or Instagrammed, I'm going to be at this spot at this time. If you're around, come check it out. It's free.
That was that's the notice you gave people.
I give them probably 4 hours notice, because it took me a while to find a spot. I had to figure some stuff out. I tried to do it the legal way, which was a complete nightmare. And I realized you can't do that. So I had to then devise a plan of making my own little checklist of like what I thought I needed to do in order to get away with it. It has to have these elements, and if it works and checks all those boxes, then I can do this thing. And so that's how I did it. And every one of them were a success except for one. I got busted in Santa Cruz by the cops there on the beach, and they wouldn't let me do it. But I said, I got busted here. I can't do it. But someone reached out, and a church offered me to do it at their front yard of the church. And so I did it in Santa Cruz at this church the next night.
Nice.
So it was great. Everyone was different, you know. It was people liked it. Like I was saying earlier, it's like, you know, give people an excuse to get outside, get away from their phone, and just try something different like this, like laying down and just taking an hour out of your life to just kick back, look at the stars, and that alone is worth it. But then this record, the tempo, the tone, the cinematic scope of the record, the story, it just works. It works really well. So, yeah, it's kind of nice.
Cool. Yeah, and this podcast will come out the day of the release of the album on Spotify and Apple. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Polyphonic Spree can be a big band. What's that like, trying to travel with that?
So, you know, you think it would be a nightmare in a sense. Logistically, it'd be kind of tough. It's really not. Only thing I can say is it's expensive. There's a lot of upfront costs with the Spree. Financially, it's tough for us. That's what kind of keeps us back. But man, I found that the Spree moves a lot smoother than a 5-piece band did for me.
Wow.
Tripping Daisy, believe it or not. It's just expensive. But everyone in the band is real thoughtful, and we all carry on. We don't have roadies, so we all do our own stuff, and everyone carries their own weight, and everyone's really good about pitching in and helping out, and everyone's so conscious of the size and everyone being on time, being, responsible and with it. And it's smooth. It really is. It's a crazy. People think it would be a nightmare, and it's really not. It's kind of a logistic nightmare for people across the pond in UK and Europe to bring us over, because there's a lot of things they've got to get done in order to get us over there. But as far as us navigating from A to B, we're pretty good at it.
I mean, even like when you went to Japan, I think. And
yeah, it's like there's logistics, dealing at the airport and customs and all that.
Sure.
But it's nothing what anybody else deals through when they go on something. They scrutinize your instruments and stuff like that. But other than that, they'll have a hotel room, for us. But, it's like 15 hotel rooms.
Right,
It's just,
right.
it's expensive, but it moves. It's great. It's you would think it would be a nightmare, but it's really not. The only thing I can really say is financially it's tough.
Yeah.
So we're looking for sponsorships always, and trying to find alternative ways of finding a way to tour it.
Sure. So you have have some core members, and you have other people that come in and out. Like, how does someone become a member? Is there an opportunity for someone to join the spree?
So we really don't have people that come in and out. When you're in the spree, you're in the spree. So, and it's like you're in there until you can't do it anymore.
Okay. I guess I meant that I've seen shows with different players at them.
Yeah. Now there's some people that maybe they can't make it for a particular show, and so they don't make it. But if you're in the band, you're in the band. As far as core people, the only few that have been there from the very beginning, actually there's just two people at this point: myself, Mark Piro, and Jennifer Job. Jenny Esping, when she's in there, she sometimes does it, and Julie, when she does it, obviously Julie's been there from the beginning. But other than that, that's about it. The rest of the guys, we're going on 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
There's people who've been in the spree for a while, but it's not like from the very beginning, which was 23 years ago. But yeah, so we have people that have been in there for 10, 12 years, and then people that have been there for 5 years, and some that have been there for a couple years, and some that just started. This will be their fourth show.
Mm-hmm.
But usually people that come in and stay with us for a while.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm friends with a few people, and I was at the show, and I was like, oh, what happened? But then I was like, okay, I didn't quite understand.
Yeah.
This is a big group.
Yeah, and there's people that leave, like they either get their own band going, or they do something else. They have something else going on in their life. Life changes and makes a move, and all of a sudden they're doing that.
So what came first?
The chicken or the egg?
Good Records or the label? The store or the label?
The store.
Okay.
So Good Records was born the same year that we did Polyphonic Spree, 2000. Julie came up with the name, and Chris Penn had been working for record stores here in Dallas, but he was with a record store down in College Station called Maroon Records. And we'd always talked about having a record store, and but Bill's Records and Tapes was kind of our store, but we didn't have a record store down here that we were hitting. And we wanted to put one down here in Deep Ellum, which we were down here on Good Latimer back when we first opened.
Okay.
And so I went to talk to Bill at Bill's Records and Tape to get his blessing on opening a record store down. I thought, I can't open a store without talking to him and finding out if he's okay with me doing something like this.
Sure.
Because I was like, he's been such a huge fan, and I've been shopping at his store, and it's like, I always thought at that time, I was like, man, is that cool to be doing that? I mean, he's the record store, like, but in all fairness, there was a lot of people down here, and we wanted our own record store down here. And no offense to Bill, and I love Bill's Records and Tapes, but it's like we wanted a record store to call our own down here. And with Chris having the experience and us kind of the passion of wanting to do it, Julie and myself and Chris kind of pulled together and made it happen.
That's
Opened
cool.
that store up. And then eventually Good Records, the label, happened soon after that.
Okay. I mean, you're not. Is that still your label though, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We're doing the Salvage Enterprise is we're putting out it on Good Records, but it's through Secretly Canadian as the independent, kind of like the back end of it, administrative side.
Got it. Okay. I'm just looking forward to seeing it again. And I'm really happy that you came and talked to me. Is there anything else you want to let people know about?
Yeah. So I don't know if I touched about the planetarium experience.
Oh, no, please.
Okay. So we're doing taking the listening experience idea and moving it to planetariums. So we're working on this about 6 months. So we're having different animators and live action shot for each song of Salvage Enterprise.
Wow.
And we're making a film that will be shown in planetariums. So you'll go there, listen to the record, and then watch the visual interpretation.
Okay.
And that's going to happen in March. And we'll roll it out in Denton at the planetarium there in North Texas.
Okay.
And then we'll start go to about 10 more planetariums and continue to roll it out. And it's going to be a Polydome is the name of it, but it's a Salvage Enterprise kind of music experience but in planetariums.
What was your idea? How did you decide to do planetariums?
So, like I told you earlier, the visual aspect of music's always been real important to me, and we've always kind of had it going on and off from the beginning, from Tripping Daisy till now. And we hooked up. Scott and I have been talking about doing something like this for a long time. And we, the planetarium thing I was thinking about in Tripping Daisy, just never got onto it. And this record really lends itself to that. It's a cinematic record. It's rooted in concept, and it's kind of a perfect record for something like this to happen. And so Scott is coming back, and he's kind of producing it as far as on the visual side, as far as getting different people to come along. Mm-hmm. And we're creating this film that'll go along with it. It's going to be pretty great.
It sounds
I'm
amazing.
excited.
So is this a concept album you're saying? Did we talk about the concept itself?
Well, I say this happens through all Polyphonic Spree records, but it's about overcoming. It always is. But there's something magical that happened with this record. I was kind of going through my own experience, dealing with some depression, on and off. And it's like making this record literally brought me out of it, and it's recorded on there, that process. So basically, it starts off in a world, and you go through all these peaks and valleys in different songs of recognizing certain aspects of life, and we revisit these areas, but you're always moving forward. And at the end, you come out to this epic spot where you realize you're capable of doing anything, and that you can turn it around yourself. And it's a testament to what we're capable of doing as human beings. It just happened to get caught on film because I improvised my lyrics and melody and music at once. So it was just kind of channeling my process in songwriting form, which is kind of amazing that you're able to capture something like that in the moment, but it happened.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm a deadhead, and I've had a lot of conversations with like jam bands improvising, and
yeah,
I don't even think I realized how much you did that, and it's amazing. So let me ask you, so like you'll do kind of like an improv and record it, and then you'll bring that to the band? Or?
So no, I with this in particular, actually, this happened during COVID. I wrote a few songs during this process of me trying to learn Logic, the software to record with. I'd never been my own engineer. I'd always had Mark Pirro doing it or other people around, and relying on other people to record. So in order to learn that and by myself, I had to start playing. And when I started playing, I just happened to start singing, and it just started coming out, and it had a microphone on.
Oh, wow.
And it caught it. And then it actually caught a performance. And then I went back and like, wow, this is great. Oh my God, I started getting energized by it. And I was like, I crafted the song, and I wrote it and I recorded it. And another situation happened, because now I'm like, got this energy, I'm coming out of it, and it started happening. And then these other songs that I had prior, they were just like what you said. I had little recordings on my phone where, I'll pick up the guitar, play it. Something happens or it doesn't. I'll strum the guitar, hit a chord, either promotes me to go to the second chord and sing or it doesn't, and I'll just set it down. I've never used the guitar other than a tool to see if I'm going to be able to do something. It's not something I like sit around the house and play the guitar. I'm not a very good guitar player, but I use it as a songwriting tool. And so I had the collection of little blops here and there, and times when I just couldn't even think about completing the songs or going any further because was in a funk. And then all of a sudden, once I had this body of work that I did on my own, and we started visiting these songs that were written up to that point that were snapshots of essence of songs, Julie kind of went through and was picking some stuff, and we came together with these songs that actually worked. They were all part of the same experience. And so went back and crafted those songs as finished songs and then brought them to the guys. Now, some of them weren't, like Shadows I kind of had the general pretty much scoped out, but Nick and I kind of worked on the arrangement of it. And some of the arrangements of strings and orchestra was done by Buffy on Wishful, Brave, and True. The rest of the stuff was pretty polished out. And then as a band, we all started playing and people started adding their interpretation to it. But it was hard getting there because, like I told you earlier, getting people to be on the same page as what the vision of the record was going to be was kind of tough. But once we got there, it was like, okay, great, this is good. So, but yeah, they're all born out of improvs, and I've got stuff on the phone, and if it hits me and I feel like I want to finish it out, then I do. Right. And then we just all join in.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I can't believe how deep you went onto the album. That's awesome. I'm really glad you came on.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Tim. Keep an eye out for Salvage Enterprise.
Yeah.
And there's going to be shows here and there in Dallas. Coming up. One on the 17th.
One on the 17th. That's our album release party, and then we got the 2 Christmas shows coming up in December 2nd and 3rd, I think.
Okay. Yeah, Majestic.
At the Majestic, and
Awesome.
And then one in Austin and one coming up here pretty soon.
Okay, yeah. So there'll be links, and
there'll be links.
Hey, thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
I'd like to thank Tim Delaughter for being my guest. Salvage Enterprise is available November 17th everywhere. The Polyphonic Spree Holiday shows are at the Majestic Theater December 15th and 16th. Thank you again to the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record there. Theme song, Unstoppable by Salim Nirala. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, all the good stuff, and share it with your friends. We'll see you next time.